Something strange is happening in the liquidation world right now. HMRC are tightening the ropes. Directors who thought they could just walk away from bounce back loans are finding themselves under investigation. More small businesses than ever are being forced into compulsory liquidation. And the scariest part, so many directors don't even know they've got an overdrawn director's loan account until it's too late. I speak to directors every single day who say, Chris, I didn't know this was how it worked. No one ever told me. And by then, they're already under serious pressure. Creditors, even HMRC. And if you're running a company in 2025, you need to understand what's changing, or you risk being caught out. Now in this video I'm going to break down why HMRC is suddenly playing hardball, what's really happening with bounce back loan investigations, why more small businesses are being forced into insolvency than ever, and the hidden dangers of overdrawn directors' loan accounts that catches out directors time and time again. And by the end you're going to understand exactly what's going on and how to protect yourself. Now let's talk about the first thing on the agenda, HMRC tightening the ropes. Listen, for years HMRC were seen as, they were quite slow to act. You know, directors thought they could, dissolve companies easily with large tax arrears. They thought they could just push HMRC back and back and back. It's not happening anymore. HMRC, for me, have got super aggressive these last few months, and they are issuing more winding up petitions than ever. The faster, okay? And they are winding up companies for amounts that even 6 months ago were unthinkable, right? Now, directors, you cannot assume HMRC will ignore unpaid VAT, PAYE or corporation tax. The days of, let's hope they don't notice, we'll sort it out next month, that they are over. In 2025, HMRC are winding up more companies than ever before. And if you've got arrears, you've got to engage with them. I've seen winding up companies being wound up for 35 grand, okay? There was a time HMRC would knock on your door for less than 100. As crazy as that sounds. So my advice, the lesson for you, right? If you owe HMRC, you've got to engage early. Ignoring them is no longer an option. They will petition to compulsory liquidate, and once you do, you lose control, okay? Next thing I want to talk about is bounce back loans being under the microscope. Listen, bounce back loans were launched, directors thought it's government backed, so if the business fails I'm fine, and that belief has left a lot of directors in serious trouble, because here's the reality. Insolvency practitioners are under pressure from the Insolvency Service and the government to investigate bounce back loan use, quite rightly, okay? Now if your turnover was inflated, if you spent the money on personal stuff, or if you took one and you wasn't entitled, people think that you're still going to be okay if they go into liquidation. That's not the case. You're going to be pursued. A director who's done something wrong with a bounce back loan cannot just walk away from it. And if the use of the funds doesn't stack up, okay, or you took one and you shouldn't, or you took more than you should, you could and probably will be made personally liable. Loads of people, like hundreds of people are getting disqualified, right? And the key thing is you've got to understand this now. Like if you've done something wrong with a bounce back loan, right, you've got to pay it back. You've got to speak to the bank or the debt collector and organise a time, basically terms to pay it back. Now, if you do that, I believe it's unlikely you'll face any more repercussions. But if you keep burying your head in the sand, or if you go through insolvency, then what you've done is going to come to light and there's going to be some really serious consequences. Okay? Next thing I want to highlight is there are more businesses in the UK getting wound up now than ever before. And what I'm seeing is there's a lot of problems. Interest rates are still high, energy costs are high, people aren't paying things on time, staff's minimum wage is going up, the NIC changes, okay? Now, what I'm seeing now is creditors are getting more aggressive with winding up petitions. It's not just HMRC. Now, you're seeing creditors on a daily basis issue stat demands. They're the things before a winding up petition. And there's not a day goes by that I don't get somebody calling me up saying, Chris, I've had a petition to basically wind the company up. And again, it's people thinking that they can just get it, they'll just kick it into the long grass, kick it into the long grass. If you owe creditors money, you've got to start communicating with them. You've got to have a plan, because if you owe them money, you're insolvent. And if you're insolvent, and this is the key thing, you've got no hope of recovery. You've got no hope of paying that money back. You've got to pick the phone up. Like literally, if something I've said is hit a nerve so far, go to the comment section. At the top of there is a link. Put your details in. One of my team will call you today. Okay? Now, the silent killer for directors is overdrawn loan accounts. Okay? They are one of the most misunderstood risks in insolvency. And it's basically money you've taken out of the company that isn't salary. Okay? It sits as a debt that you owe the company back. Okay? So for instance, if you're making money, the most tax efficient way to take money out of your business is a combination of salary through the payroll, about £1,000 a month, and the rest is dividends. What most of you don't understand is you can only take dividends if you're making a profit. If you've got large HMRC arrears, if you've not paid last year's corporation tax, if you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, you're insolvent. Therefore, there's not going to be the distributable profits to declare that dividend. And most directors just don't understand this. You know, they're taking drawings that they're calling dividends even though the company is insolvent. And what happens is they go to their accountant, and the accountant says, you've not made enough money this year, therefore you've got an overdrawn loan account. And let's say your overdrawn loan account is over £10,000 and it doesn't get paid back within nine months of the year end. You then, companies lumbered with something called S455 tax, which is 33.75% that goes on your corporation tax. So it's causing you an issue even if you're continuing to trade. But the problem is if you go into insolvency, if you go into liquidation, the insolvency practitioner is going to ask you to pay the money that you owe the company back. And so many directors are shocked because they owe tens of thousands of pounds. And the director will normally say, well, no one's told me about it. And that's what I say to him. I said, listen, your accountant probably has told you about it. You've just not heard it. You've not listened to it. And really, an insolvency practitioner should be mentioning it on day one. Not all of them do, okay? And that's what I'm saying. Listen, something strange is happening. Forced insolvencies are on the increase. Directors are not being warned about the risk. There's loads of stuff that is changing and it's causing people problems. And I believe there's a new liquidation landscape. Put it all together. 2025, HMRC are more aggressive. They're winding up people for less money than they used to. Bounce back loans, if you've done something wrong with it, you are going to get a hold over the coals. Quite rightly, okay? Small businesses are collapsing faster. In fact, not just small businesses. Businesses in the UK are collapsing daily. And directors are going into insolvency, not understanding these overdrawn directors' loan accounts and what's going to happen to them. And it feels for me like this whole industry has shifted into a new phase, one where directors are under more pressure and not always getting the guidance that they need. So I want to start talking about what are the lessons here. What should you do if you're worried about insolvency? Well, the first thing is you've got to face up to HMRC early. Don't ignore them, okay? First thing, perhaps speak to somebody. If your HMRC arrears are at a point that you don't understand how you're going to negotiate with HMRC, or if you can even get back on a firm financial footing. But don't ignore them. There's a thing called the time to pay arrangement, and that will allow you to restructure that debt with HMRC over extended terms. Now there's some caveats. If you get a time to pay arrangement, and that's where they grant you additional time to pay your arrears, you need to make sure that not only do you stick to what you've said you're going to pay them, you need to make sure that you're up to date with all your current stuff as well. If you're in a time to pay arrangement and you miss your next VAT payment, that time to pay arrangement is then broken and the enforcement action is going to start. Now, I would suggest you speak to somebody like us before you speak to HMRC. You're going to have all your returns up to date, and you've got to understand what you need to ask for. Don't just accept the first time to pay that they offer you, just because you're like, oh God, I feel so much relief. I've kicked it down the road a little bit. Because a lot of time to pays are destined to fail. Another thing, listen, you've got to check your bounce back loan history. Did you take one when you shouldn't have done? Were you trading at the start of 2020? Did you take the right amount? Did you take 25% of 2019's turnover? Did you take more than one? Did you take it on the Monday and withdraw it on the Tuesday? All this stuff is going to cause you an issue if you go into insolvency. And if you go into insolvency, you're going to get the book thrown at you. And guess what? The actual banks know about this now. They've done all this data matching. They know people who've flagged a bounce back loan. And they're going to start sending letters to people who have defaulted, who've done something wrong, and have not set up repayment plans. So please, 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 if you are behind on a bounce back loan, you've buried your head in the sand, if you've done something wrong with it, going into insolvency is going to open a can of worms for you. You must speak to either the bank or the appointed debt collector and get a deal done and pay it over. Even if you're paying it over 20 years, make sure you're paying something. I also want you, if you're concerned about insolvency, you need to check your overdrawn loan account. Speak to your accountant and find out if you have one, right? Don't wait to be told by an insolvency practitioner you've got an overdrawn loan account. And there's loads of ways you can do this. If you've got management information, that is the best. If you've got software that is updated on a monthly basis by a bookkeeper, that's Xero, QuickBooks, Free Agent, Sage, pull off a trial balance, it should show an overdrawn loan account if it's there, okay? If you're relying on your accounts from last year, that's a bad position to be in. Your accounts will just tell you where your overdrawn loan account is at that one day in history. You're going to really need to, for me, you get a final set of accounts done, okay? Or you'd at least do a transactional analysis and see what money you've taken out of that bank account. Again, we will help you do this, right? If you're worried about an overdrawn loan account, please just put your details in the section below. We'll call you today and we'll help you understand if you've got one, what it is and what your options are. Now, if anything I've said is sort of hit a nerve with you, you've got to get advice before creditors act, okay? Voluntary processes like administration or liquidation, they always put you in a better position than waiting for a compulsory liquidation. So yeah, listen, I think something strange is happening in the insolvency world. The rules haven't changed, but enforcement has. HMRC are chasing harder. Bounce back loans are under the microscope and more firms are collapsing. Now, if you're a director under pressure, don't wait for the system to close in on you. Contact us at Director First today. We'll explain your risk in plain English. We'll protect you from nasty surprises and we'll give you a very, very, very thorough advice. If you've enjoyed my content and you want to find out a little bit more about bounce back loans and the problems that we've got, I want you to go to that playlist there. It'll tell you everything you need to know about bounce back loans. Thanks for your time, Chris Worden. Bye-bye.